Hi, Michelle.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm good. This is our mutual interview,
hmm
and for the Visibility Gateway.
Yeah.
So Michelle is going to start out, and I'm going to be the questioner. And ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay. So the first question is kind of describe what you do, your mission statement.
Of course, yeah. So I work with women who have experienced sexual trauma or rape. And I would say the women that I work with are deeply spiritual. So a lot of them are really connected to Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Isis, those kind of lineages. And I take them on a journey of healing. From really healing the inner relationship with themselves and also then bringing them to a place where they can have these sacred, I call them sacred evolutionary partnerships.
So tell me how that works with your typical client. What kind of age do you, is your typical client?
Oh, perfect. So the ages usually span from like 30 to 55. So I really love working with women that age. I have a few younger than that, and I'm always amazed at, I feel like, I'm a little bit older. I feel like I've been on the spiritual path for so long, but it's always amazing to see women in their 20s who are like so connected and so into their healing and healing on such a deep level.
So you're really shooting for people that have some kind of awareness before they even come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most of the women I worked with have done a lot of work. So a lot of them have done traditional therapy, have healed the trauma on a really deep level, but it still shows up like in their life, their relationships, definitely their sexuality.
Can you give me an example of a client? You don't have to name names, but
Yeah.
somebody came to you and what you saw, maybe a vision for what your treatment was, and then how it proceeded.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So I have a client, and it's interesting. I'm just going to use the one that like popped into my mind. And while like what I look at trauma as very relative to the person, right? So something that happens that is kind of beyond our capacity to cope. So this woman came in 2 weeks after she was supposed to be married, and her fiance called off the wedding. Like right before the wedding, they had this huge wedding planned of like 300 people. She was like all ready. So for her, that was super traumatic, and brought up, oh my gosh, like heartbreak, so much fear around relationships, but also this, so much of the conditioning came forward because then she had to face all the people that were invited to the wedding and tell them that her fiance called it off. So we really work deeply. I do work with, it's actually called ego therapy, or ego state therapy. So it's really like weaving the different parts of ourselves together. So the parts that kind of get fractured off when we have a trauma. Um, so we worked together for quite a long time, creating safety, weaving them back together, parts of herself, and then actually helping her to learn how to be in a healthy relationship. Because when we looked, the relationship that actually he ended was not the most healthy relationship. So now she came all the way to the point where she met this like amazing man. It's crazy when we even, when the two of us get together and talk about him because we just can't believe that this person actually exists. And they're just about to get engaged. So that story just warms my heart because taking someone like she could have been in that trauma, repeating those patterns over and over again in relationship, but like to really allow her the space to heal and then to create something totally new that she couldn't really have gotten to from where she was before.
So what would you say the major tools you used with her were in your in your workshop or whatever you call it.
Yeah, of course. So we do the ego state therapy work, which is like really parts work. But then I also blend it with somatic experiencing, um, and a lot of these, like, I mean, I'm going to call them sexuality practices, but things like the jade egg, and different like tantric Taoist practices to really help her get like in her body and to create a sense of safety. I also work really closely with ascended masters and angels. So when my clients are open to that, we bring them in. So, say like Archangel Michael will come in to help with protection, and Mother Mary will come in to help with self love and compassion. Magdalena and Yeshua will come in for really, they come in a lot for like the sexual healing itself. And then Isis and Saint Germain come in for that like alchemical sacred relationship container.
So would you say that your average client has, in addition to relationship healing and trauma healing, they have some kind of a spiritual connection
Mhm.
as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because they really, most of them come not understanding that it's going to be such a spiritual experience. But I do find with synchronicity and just the right people coming to my work. So I'm super grateful for that. Yeah. And it
That's
really mirrors, like, I do this because it mirrors my own story, like that path of, trauma, sexual trauma early on, and then repeating the trauma over and over again in relationships by choosing like unavailable people or abusive people and not understanding. Because I was like, I am such a, I look at myself as a very sweet person and not understanding how I would attract these. Really healing this and now being in this relationship that I just, like, I am just so incredibly grateful for.
you know, um, one more thing about how you
Yeah.
got into this. When did you know you wanted to become a therapist like this? You talked about your trauma. Did you know kind of early on or way late that you wanted
No,
to do
I
this kind of
like
work?
resisted this path for a really long time. I've been on the priestess path for a long time, and I would have people tell me, like, like, you're a sacred sexuality priestess, and say this to me. And, something in my astrological chart said I was supposed to work with sacred sexuality. And I was like, no, like, I was a dietitian. So I was very type A. And then eventually, when my life fell apart and I realized, oh, okay, actually, this is what I'm supposed to do, my own trauma came forward and worked with others healing that. And now I just feel super comfortable in this realm of sacred sexuality and trauma and kind of going into the darkness of someone, like, while holding the light and helping them find the light within them. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that there's people like you doing this kind of therapy.
Oh,
It's
thank you, David. I
it's really
appreciate.
encouraging. Thanks for your description.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So now let's move on to your interview. Does it sound good?
Yep, it's good.
Okay, perfect. So, David, I would love to hear what you do.
So I do have several modalities. My main one is cranial sacral therapy,
Mm,
but I combine it with several other modalities like shiatsu and massage when necessary, and polarity therapy. But both the polarity therapy and the um, cranial sacral therapy are, you're touching the person, but it's also energy work. So it's kind of between both worlds, the between massage and energy work. And it's important to touch for me
yeah.
because um, other kinds of work like Reiki can keep you in your upper chakras and not in your body. And
Mm,
for me, in my experience, I had a long journey, still have a long journey to stay in the body.
yeah.
So I I really focus on keeping my clients in the body. And in many cases, they are floating away because of drugs that they're taking or because of their experiences.
Yeah.
And I found out the hard way that I can't cure people of drug addictions, but if there's a seed that they want to get better, they want to reduce their medications, they want to feel things again. That'd
Yeah.
be my ideal client.
Oh, I love that so much. So I would love to hear a little bit more about the type of clients you work with.
Well, I work with clients from a few weeks old to
Yeah.
as old as you can be.
Oh, wow. So like the whole lifespan. I love
But
that.
obviously, there's different treatments for the different. Cranial sacral is actually recognized by Western allopathic doctors as an
Yeah.
aid for infant mother bonding.
Wow.
So cranial sacral itself takes you back to the womb, to an energy that you feel in the womb. It's an energy that goes up and down your spine, and it has to do with your cranial bones and your spine and your sacrum moving in kind of slow motion with the fluid circulating. And that makes kind of a magnetic, uh, soothing vibration that is very customary. It's very normal for the preborn baby in the womb. But once you get born, your ability to access that soothing rhythm from your conscious mind kind of goes.
Okay.
So, so if an infant and a mother aren't bonding, one of the ways you can assist them, and you work with both together, is is allowing the mother to feel the same kind of rhythm that the baby is feeling
Hmm.
on a non uh, visual, non auditory, but sensation level.
Oh, wow.
And and the practitioner kind of acts as a conduit between the two. So you kind of help them reconnect.
That's so powerful. I love that so much.
Yeah, I don't get to do that work that much, but I love it when I get to do it.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, that's life changing for
There was
those.
one child at 2 years old that came with his mom, and she was desperate
Yeah.
because because she tried everything and tried medical procedures, and her son basically couldn't open his mouth for any
Hmm.
length of time in order
Yeah.
to feed. And infants and or newborns or 2-year-olds, um, all of them have they're close to their in-body state. They're basically in the body. So
Yeah.
any kind of cranial sacral treatment you do, especially in the mouth work, is effective really quickly because
Mm,
they're receptive.
okay.
Even if they're traumatized or have in this baby's injury was uh, due to birth trauma.
Mm.
Uh, and his mother was really receptive, so I worked on both of them, and I was able to get him to open his mouth, and they were able to build on that, and um, he got much better in a few weeks.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
it was really fun because it's something immediate. You can see immediate results.
Yeah, I imagine that's so fulfilling. That's amazing. Would you say, I know you mentioned that clients like that are kind of rare. Like, what are the clients that you see the most? What are they like?
Typically, I see people, 30s and 40s, and
Okay.
I see quite a bit of abuse victims because where I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there are a lot of abuse victims,
Yeah.
mostly female. And I didn't know that until I started working. And I wasn't hanging out a shingle that said PTSD or abuse victims
Yeah.
come here, but that's who came. And I learned pretty quickly that I needed to get some skills around that, and I'm still studying. But
Yeah.
the important thing about craniosacral therapy is that it will stir up memories of the
Mhm.
past,
Okay.
and especially memories of abuse, because those are the memories that shock the system.
Mm.
So if the client is receptive, and I ask that question early on for almost everybody,
Yeah.
are you willing to remember your childhood?
Mm.
And sometimes the answer is no, and
Okay.
then I can't work with them.
Okay. I mean, I
But
feel like with your energy and your like gentleness, like it just like it gives me such a feeling of safety. I imagine you hold a really safe space for your clients.
well, the object of the therapy is to it's like riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
The client has remembers the womb if it was a good experience in the womb, which there are some that are almost uniformly not good. So
Yeah.
there's exceptions, but in general, at least part of the gestation experience is good, and they're in this rhythm, and they remember the rhythm on a subconscious level, on an unconscious level, but they
Okay.
don't know how to access it. It's
Yeah.
like there was no bicycle for them to ride.
Okay.
So, so the practitioner, rather than adding something to their experience or trying to impose something, just gently reminds the system, hey, you have this rhythm, it's
Hmm.
still there. You can still access it.
You can still access it.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Wow. I can see how our work would complement each other too. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fulfilling, and usually what happens is the client will relax into it, and sometimes even fall asleep, and it's
Yeah.
all good because if they're asleep, they're really accessing it unconsciously.
Hmm. Hmm. So, how do you work with people? Like one on one, or it seems
Usually one-on-one, but like if it's a mother and child, I
yeah.
prefer to work with both at once. And
Okay.
and if it's I have worked on couples before, but that's rarely.
Mm,
Um, what oftentimes happens is the mother will bring in the child and want to leave them, and I'll tell them no, that's not a good idea. It's much better to try to stay and watch.
mm,
And the way craniosacral therapy works, or any kind of energy work, is if she's sitting there watching, she's getting the therapy.
perfect.
And,
Yeah, I can see that.
and
Yeah.
so that's half the battle right there, is to get her to
Yeah.
stay.
Just to get her
And
to stay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then she'll oftentimes, even if she's not being worked on directly, she'll feel the effects even more than you'd expect.
Mm,
Uh, and because it is an energy work, and if you're near the field, the energy field, which is not only the body, physical body, but the aura, and the
yeah.
aura extends several feet in diameter beyond the client. And then there's the aura of the room and the aura of the neighborhood, and it just goes on forever.
Oh, I love all of that you shared. Thank you so much, David. I feel like I have a real grasp about what you do now, and I'm just so grateful that you're in the world doing this work. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm. So everyone, we appreciate you watching our video, and we can't wait to see yours, and sending you all so much love. And thank you, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. This has been an outstanding experience. And